This video is brought to you by Straight Goods News, Canada's alternative online news source. Visit straightgoods.ca.
Be required to get European banks recapitalized at a level that's going to avoid another credit crisis. The IMF is saying there's a report that will be coming out of 50 billion needed for Spanish banks.
You'd have to ask the Eurozone countries that.
Well,
that's not information that's available to us about the degree of undercapitalization of European banks. That's a matter that the Europeans need to work on. What we do know is that Mr. Mulcair criticizes our government for not participating with Canadian taxpayers' money in bailing out European banks. And quite frankly, these are among the wealthiest countries in the world, and they can manage their own issue before looking to other countries.
Is there an issue there, though, of just boosting confidence as a symbolic gesture? I mean, it's not like the money's going directly to the banks now. Could Canada not say, yes, we're willing to show that we're with Europe and we're there in case it gets worse?
There are two issues. One is the need to build a firewall to protect other countries and other institutions from what's going on in Europe, and the other is capitalizing their banks. Listen, we're not talking about poor countries. We're talking about Western Europe, large economies, relatively strong economies, and they're fully capable of financing their own needs, just as the Americans did in October 2008. Germany has a major role to play, obviously, as one of the most powerful economies in the Eurozone.
What kind of message are you sending out to Europe and the United States and other G7 nations with comments today that Canadian taxpayers will not be participating in the bailout of the Eurozone?
Well, the Americans are not contributing further resources to the IMF, and I can tell you, since I was there at the meetings in Washington, there is a lot of hesitancy among non-G20 countries about being asked to contribute to bail out Europe. Listen, the IMF is there primarily for the poorer countries in the world, and Canada has always been a major participant and supporter of the IMF, will continue to be so, but the Europeans have to address their own issues
How close are we?
before they go to others.
What options were discussed on the G7 call? Can you tell you what options will be considered by the G7? Is the G7 going to ride to the rescue again?
Yeah, we're not. I'm not going to get into the discussions we had in what was quite a lengthy phone discussion. We have been saying for a long time that the Europeans need to move forward, create an appropriate firewall, and capitalize those banks that are undercapitalized. That is within their power to do. Now, there are some difficulties. There are some treaties and so on. There are issues about creating a fiscal structure, some sort of financial union that could be appropriately managed. As you know, there is not a central Ministry of Finance in the Eurozone, although there is a common currency, and there's a central bank that also needs more powers.
How close are we to a credit contagion in Europe? I'm sorry? How close are we to a banking contagion, a return of a credit crisis? How close are we?
Yeah, this is a serious situation. We know from several years ago, we know that when matters become disorderly, they become unpredictable. The timing becomes unpredictable. So we urge our European friends to move forward and take the steps they need to take. I realize it's not easy for them, and I've had many discussions over several years with them about this. But the key is to avoid a crisis.
Isn't there an element of self-preservation? Isn't there an element of self-preservation in having the IMF participate in Europe's problems? Because it isn't just Europe that's going to suffer from contagion. It's going to be Canada, it's going to be the United States, it's going to be countries all over the world. So shouldn't the countries around the world also participate in this, backstopping?
Well, you have to have a front stop first, and Europe hasn't stepped forward with adequate resources to deal with their own issues. So this needs to be done, and they're also the ones who are in a position to be informed about how much is needed in order to address the issues. Thanks.
Sorry, Minister, I know how much you love speaking to us.